Will Smith, the actor. Will Smith, the Dodger. Who's gotten more hits in spring training? You might find out, and I don't know about that, with Jim Jefferies.
Good one. That might be one of your best ones.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
There's also Will Smith, the pitcher. Don't forget, he's gotten the least amount of
Yeah.
hits.
Will
He's
Smith, the
got every
pitcher.
all of them.
He hasn't even been to person. Yeah. Like Will Smith, because he really played up to the name Will Smith. He comes out to the Fresh Prince as his track.
Yeah.
That's a big question. Opening day's coming next week.
Will Smith.
Does Will Smith
catcher for
walk
the
out
Dodgers.
to in West Philadelphia, born and raised? Does he walk to the plate like that? Or does he change it to Getting Jiggy with It?
Or the G.I. Jane theme song.
Yeah, does he change it to the Has Will Smith, the baseball player, shaved his head? And if he did, would it be a good laugh?
You got some shows coming up this week, Jim?
I'm in Green Bay. I'm in Grand Rapids. And then I'm going to do like Edmonton and Calgary with some extra shows. This is in a couple of weeks. Extra shows have been added to the Thursday and the Friday, one in each city. And then I'm off to Australia, which the tour is sold out.
You have some other dates before then.
None that I care about.
Cleveland,
We're off to
Cleveland and Detroit.
You care about them.
I do. I'm only joking.
Cleveland, Detroit, and then you're going back to Canada.
I've added a show in Detroit. It's selling like gangbusters, Detroit. Motor City, I'm coming to see you. Cleveland, how are you?
And then you go back to Canada one more time before you go to Australia.
To Winnipeg.
No, you Winnipeg and
To lose a
Calgary.
peg.
No, you're going to go to Regina, Saskatoon,
Regina.
and
The only town that rhymes with cunt.
Winnipeg. You're right, and Winnipeg. So come to all those or go to your website, right? JimJeffries.gov.
JimJeffries.com.
.com. Sorry.
.com.
Okay.
We could probably make that. Those might exist.
I this week I will be in Tampa, Florida at Side Splitters. Side Splitters, April
Been a
7th
long
through
time
9.
coming.
I know. It's
Bobby
going
Joe.
well. Act now, high ticket alert. Right now, we're really close to completely not being sold out. So,
Wow, that's congratulations.
It's pretty cool.
Well, I'll tell you, the Australian tour is for most cities, like Sydney and Melbourne, all sold out. All the tickets sold out. Perth, Adelaide, all sold out. Except we added a show in Wollongong, and we thought we were only going to sell a couple of thousand tickets. So we had the arena batched down, and we keep growing the room. And it's up to 5,000 or something. You can still get the Gong. We've released some more tickets at the Gong.
Low ticket alert.
Low ticket alert at the Gong.
Okay. All right.
And the New Zealand tickets are ticking along fine.
High ticket alert.
Well, they're mostly sold, but I've said some things, and you're all right to be upset, New Zealand.
So if you don't live in Green Bay or Grand Rapids, come to Tampa next week, and then the week after that, Jim's not even going to be on the road. I'll be in Escondido.
Like
near
if
San
Will
Diego.
Smith can
I'm
slap.
trying to plug my shows here.
Oh, I thought you were still plugging me.
April
Oh.
15th and 16th. Grant, I tried to, but you were like, fuck Cleveland and Detroit.
I did
love
know.
Cleveland
I
and
love
Detroit.
Cleveland and Detroit.
April 15th and 16th, I'll be at the Grand Comedy Club in Escondido. It's near San Diego. Come out there and
I
do your
like
thing.
Cleveland. That's when I put Detroit and Cleveland together.
Cleveland.
Great place.
I'm gonna go to those shows with you, Cleveland and Detroit. And I was thinking we're gonna have extra day in Detroit. We should go to the Ford Motor Museum. Really
Now
cool.
join the Patreon. We just recorded a Patreon. We talked all about Will Smith. We bloody get that covered.
Yep.
Every fucking angle. We had a return of Barbara and Lottie. And if you don't know who Barbara and Lottie is,
You're missing out.
you miss it. You got to join on to hear the Barbara and Lottie story. I'm not going to do it now on the podcast because that would be a shame.
$1.25 worth of entertainment.
Patreon.com/IDCat. And you guys are all wearing some new, I don't know about that.
All right. I love a trucker's hat. The hat's my favorite thing.
I
Yeah.
like this hat. It's very
And
nice.
I'm wearing
Very
the
nice.
shirt.
Are these available?
Yeah. So I don't know about that.com.
How much is a hat? I'm going to guess $20.
I don't know. I haven't checked the price.
$10.
It's probably
$47.
20, I would guess. I looked at the prices and they're not crazy.
$19.99.
Some merch
Forced out.
places
Researchers
are
on it.
fucking nuts. And then don't forget to follow us on Instagram at IDCat Podcasts.
I don't know about that.com.
Yeah.
It's not coming up.
They're launching it today.
Oh, launched.
there
Okay.
you go.
Launching.
And so, one more thing too. I have this picture.
yeah.
I didn't have it for a couple weeks. Lexi Luna gave us a signed
Yay.
photo for our porn episodes.
Can I
I'll
get
put that
one?
up there.
She's got wonderful handwriting. She
Yeah.
was a school teacher.
Thank
after
you all so much. She had a lot of fun. We met her in Vegas.
She
Thanks
came to
again,
the show in
Lexi.
Vegas. She didn't come backstage after the gig. She mightn't have enjoyed the show.
She came before.
Yeah, she came before, I guess.
What do you think? Because she didn't come after?
You meant to go, I really enjoyed it.
She bought her tickets. You didn't give her tickets.
Even more reason you're invested.
Now you're calling her out. I think she enjoyed it, Jim.
She should have. I was excellent.
All right. Well, I think we need to read some ads.
Yep.
All right.
We're super excited to welcome back some of our friends of ours, Vincero Collective. Ooh. And just in time for their spring upgrade sale where you can get up to 30% off your entire order. If you don't know Vincero yet, they're a premium lifestyle brand in St. Diego, carrying watches, sunglasses, and much more. Perfect for men and women of all sizes and style. Like the word was style.
Style is something good.
But sizes as well. They're very thinning, these watches. Serious style, undeniable quality, and complete versatility have put Vincero at the top of the game. And with their brand new Argo automatic spotlights on all we love about them. Spring is here, and it's time to set up your style. Check out Vincero's spring upgrade sale. I guarantee you'll find something that you like. Visit www.vincerocollective.com/IDK to see some of my favorite picks and receive up to 30% off your entire order. The best part is you don't have to just take my word for it. With Vincero's 5-year guarantee and 365 days, that's almost a year, free return policy. If you don't like how something fits or looks on you, well, first of all, you're wrong because they're all great. You look great, but also you can return it with no problems. That's how confident they are in their products. They're giving you 5 years and 365-day return policy. Vincero has something for everyone that will elevate your look. With the new release of the Argo and the spring upgrade sale, there's no better time to put some Vincero in your wardrobe. So support our show and check them out at vincerocollective.com/IDK. Online shopping? It isn't slowing down anytime soon.
It's not.
Oh, it's around for you. If your business is ready to keep up with the pace, how do you do it? You're scratching your head.
Mm-hmm.
You probably put a little bald patch at the back.
What would you do?
Your hair's going to grow back with ShipStation. You'll never have to worry about shipping again. Make the switch to the solution that handles all your shipping needs quickly, affordably, and painlessly. ShipStation is already trusted by over 100,000 e-commerce sellers. You can keep track of your orders and any sales channel, easily find the best shipping carrier and deeply discounted rates, and automate just about any shipping task with just a few clicks. Click, and then you're done. What's your favorite thing about ShipStation? Is it the ease of use, the money you save? What is it, Kel?
Well, Forrest is the one who's the big shipper.
I know. I got the rock.
He's the big shipper.
I sell the rocks.
People don't want to buy anything from me, but Forrest is selling them like gangbusters.
You know how expensive it is to ship rocks? It's very expensive.
Yeah,
but with ShipStation, a lot cheaper. And I get the rocks out there on time, and then people open them and like, what the hell? I just bought a rock. And like that's on them. But as far as the shipping though, it's a breeze. It's awesome.
Now Forrest is very clearly joking there, if you didn't notice. For me and Jack, we ship records, albums.
That's right.
We're starting to ship the merchandise you see on your head. And who do we use? ShipStation. With ShipStation, you'll save time by funneling all your orders into one simple interface, no matter where you're selling. You'll save money, and then you compare carrier options and choose the best shipping solution every time. And most importantly, you'll save your sanity knowing your orders are handled and you're getting the best rates. ShipStation ships more in less time with ShipStation. Use the offer code JIM, like my name, not the place you work out, JIM, to get a 60-day trial, free trial. That's 2 months free with no hassle, stress-free shipping. And it's even more than 2 months if you do it in February.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Go to ShipStation.com, click on the microphone at the top of the page, and type in Jim. ShipStation, make ship happen.
All right, please welcome our guest today, Jordan Taylor.
G'day, Jordan. Now it's time to play.
Yes, though. Yes, though. Yes, though.
Is it playing through the thing?
Judging a book by its cover.
All right, we didn't hear the song either, but Jack did. G'day, Jordan. Thanks for being on the podcast, mate. Look, I normally try to pick what the person does by their backdrop. I'm assuming you're an inmate in a prison.
That's what I was
You're only allowed a certain amount of visiting time, and you're speaking through one of those glass windows to me right now. Am I correct?
Not quite, but sometimes it feels that way.
I feel like that building is pro-asbestos. You know what I mean? I feel like it's still got. I'd check the roof. I haven't seen the top of it, but I think that they haven't cleaned that one out. Are you at a school or a university?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on
So
campus.
are you a professor?
Yes.
Okay, I guess that. Are you a professor of a functioning topic like doctors, medicines, lawyers, things like that you can actually get a job for?
No.
No.
Sadly. No.
Okay. All right. Does your profession involve Plato?
No.
Plato, like the Plato
not as
or
far as I know.
Plato?
No, like the philosopher.
Okay, let me give you a hint. So
I always think with philosophy, they never bring in Confucius, do they? Do they bring Confucius into philosophy degrees? Or the
Yeah.
guy that
Yeah, I
writes
would think so.
the guy that writes the fortune cookies is one bloke allegedly, or is that an urban myth? There's one bloke who does
I don't think that's philosophy, fortune cookies. But
fortune cookies are so philosophy. The lucky numbers aren't that they put at the bottom. That's very random.
let me give you a hint. You were recently in Washington, D.C. at a theater that was named after something that is basically this topic. You remember the theater you were at, right?
Yeah, I remember the theater.
What was it called?
Eddie Murphy.
I know Eddie Murphy
recorded
did
Delirious
there. It was the National Theater.
No, it was DAR, D-A-R. Those were the initials. The DAR Theater. Daughters.
I don't know. Democrats are rad.
Daughters
Of
Of
the
what you said? DAR.
D-A-R. There's no Daughters.
Republic.
Daughters of A-R. American
Revolution.
There you
Yeah.
go. We're talking about the
Jim
American
got it.
Revolution
Guessed it.
today.
Ah, yeah, I've seen Hamilton.
Okay, well,
I think that's actually after what we're about to talk about.
I guess you're going to crush it.
I know there's a lot of, I'll give it a go. It's one of those things that I sort of know a little bit about in the same sense as most Americans.
Right.
We didn't learn it in school. I've seen enough movies.
Well, hold on. Jordan Taylor is a historian of the American Revolution, focusing on the era's media and politics. He has a PhD in early American history and is currently teaching at Indiana University. He is the author of a forthcoming book about fake news during the American Revolution called Misinformation Nation, Foreign News and the Politics of Truth in Revolutionary America, which is coming out in October. And his Twitter is this Publius or Parish? Is that how I would say that?
Yeah, that's how you would say that. That's a very nerdy American Revolution history joke.
Yeah, I looked it up. So Publilius.
Tell me
or
the
Parish.
joke. Tell me the joke. What's the joke?
I don't know the joke,
the
but I
joke.
looked up what Publius was. Yeah, you can.
I'm just going to say it's not worth explaining.
Okay.
I don't know. If you don't tell that joke well, I'll come up there and slap you.
Selling the brand there, Jordan. All right, good. So yeah, I don't know. And how did you, this is interesting. The book is about misinformation and I guess fake news during the Revolutionary War. Like it's a term that I wouldn't even associate with then in the media.
No, and it's not a term that they had at the time, but it is basically a problem that they had and that we continue to have, right? During that time, there was no such thing as journalists. There was no reliable source of news.
So it's just like now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But instead of relying on Fox News and Twitter, they were relying on sailors and letters and things like that, which are even less trustworthy.
I still get my news from sailors. I just wait down there. I go, what have you seen? What's going on overseas? I don't trust the news.
They're like, have you heard about Alexander Hamilton?
Yeah. I'll tell you the news I learnt this year. The water's a bit choppy today. Yeah, that was a bit of news I got. So it's a hot take.
Well, thanks for being here, Jordan. Jordan has his doctorate, but he said we could call him Jordan, just so you know. I have to say that all the time so we don't get any angry comments from people.
Dr. Jordan's a good name, though.
Yeah, well, it would be Dr. Taylor. But.
Yeah, but if he had a TV show, he'd call himself Dr. Jordan. Dr. Phil's not his last name.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Drew's not his last name.
Okay.
Wow. That's a good
Never
point.
thought about it.
Fucking, he got you so hard.
So
Idiot.
I'm going to ask Jim a bunch of questions about the American Revolution. Well, if you're not getting it, Jim, we'll skip ahead and just start talking
I'll
to Jordan.
I'll get it.
No, I mean, if it seems like you're not knowing.
Hey, bloody watch this.
Okay. At the end of these questions.
Confidence is already a 10.
Jordan, you're going to rate him
Red coats.
You're going to grade him 0 through 10, 10 being the best on his accuracy of his knowledge.
Paul Revere.
Kelly's going to grade him on confidence.
The British are what?
The Boston Tea Party. The British are coming, which is
joke.
also one of my favorite pornos.
And then I'm going to grade him on et cetera. If you score 21 through 30, George Washington is very
A British
significant figure.
bukkake. You wouldn't want to watch that.
11.
Oh, yeah. Put a lot of goo on me face. Oh, blimey. Or Charlie Harper.
11 through 20, Boy George.
Oh, yeah.
0 through 10, George
Do you
Zimmerman.
really want to hurt me, Forrest?
George Zimmerman, 0 through 10. You don't want to be that.
Oh, yeah, George Zimmerman.
The worst of the Georges.
That was one of my favorite jokes on Legit was George Zimmerman. In season 2, the opening episode when we go to the high school revolution and Dan's character Steve gets really drunk.
Reunion. You're already saying revolution.
The school reunion. And Dan's character is leaving. and I'm carrying him out and he's all drunk. I go, hey, we're at the high school reunion. I go, hey, George Zimmerman. He goes, what? I go, yeah, different guy. It was an ad lib.
All right. When was the American Revolution?
At the beginning of America.
Give us some years.
Yeah. The 4th of July, 1776.
Started on 4th of July, 1776.
The 4th of July was when the Declaration of Independence was signed, and that's when it became the Republic of America.
Okay. Sorry about that, Jack. Arnie. I know Jack's having to step over the dog.
I think I've got that wrong, but right at the same time.
Why did it start?
It started because these fucking British people coming over here thinking they can do things. It started because America wanted their independence. There was a bit of tea was thrown into Boston Harbor.
Weren't the Americans British?
This is a tricky question you got for me here, Forrest. Are the Australians British? Who is British? When do you cease to be a British person, become an American? It's like so often. I remember living in Britain. And some English person said, "It's horrible what you did to those Aboriginals." And I went, "I feel like that was you as well. You really set the ball rolling on that one."
Well, hold off on the Boston Tea Party for now.
Right.
Why was the Sugar Act of 1764 significant, and what were the consequences?
1764
Sugar Act.
The Sugar Act. Yeah, what happened there was the British was cutting off the sugar supply to the American people, so they couldn't have sweet tea. And what happened there was the Americans went, "This isn't good. We need our sugar."
Okay. What was the Stamp Act?
That was where they started taxing the stamps too much. Another way to get under the heels of the Americans by putting inflated taxes on stamps. Stamps used to cost.
What stamps?
Oh, letter stamps. When you stamp your feet up and down, they tax that as well.
Okay. So they had the post office already before the war?
Well, this is a funny thing because do you know that Benjamin Franklin was the first Postmaster General of America?
Oh, well, that's not one of the questions.
It wasn't the fucking citizenship test I took.
Yeah, I thought you might get some from the citizen. Okay, why did colonists protest against taxation without representation?
Taxation without representation. I can speak quite boldly on this because I was taxed very heavily by the American people for a very long time when I wasn't a citizen and I wasn't allowed to vote. So
should have revolted.
I'm the example. They were taking my taxes, but I wasn't allowed to say in the elections.
Okay. Do you know what the Boston Massacre was?
Yes, it's when they beat the Dodgers in 2017. It was maybe 26. I don't know, but I remember
2019. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it was around
18,
17, 18. Okay. We were in a casino somewhere. The game lasted for fucking 7 hours or some shit.
Yeah. Well, the Dodgers won that game, but yeah, the rest of it was okay. Here you go. The Tea Act and the Boston Tea Party. What's going on there?
They were people that they no longer wanted the British in America. They wanted to be their own country. And as an act of rebellion, they put all the tea into the harbor.
Okay, here's a question maybe you get from your citizenship test.
Sure.
How many colonies declared independence from Great Britain in 1776?
All right. No. I believe it was like 16 states. I'm going to say 12.
Okay. And then why did they want independence?
Well, why does anyone want independence, man?
Okay, let's move on.
You know what I mean?
There's actual answers to this question.
No, because, you want to have your own thing going on, man. It's the same reason you leave your parents' house.
Okay, do you know any major battles of the Revolutionary War?
I know more about the Civil War, to be honest with you. I know fuck all about that.
And then do you know the turning point of the Revolutionary War, American Revolutionary War?
George Washington came in and he bloody fought them off. And there was that bit where he's on the boat, where he's standing up on the boat and he's like waving his fist. That would have been something.
I'm going to skip ahead here. Well, how many people died in the American Revolutionary War?
Well, too many, because the British were too dumb to invent camouflage. They thought it was good to go in battle with a bloke playing a flute, another bloke playing the drums, and then we'll all wear red. And then they were like, how did I get shot? Oh, you stuck out like a sore thumb.
Okay, let's move on. What was the army commanded by George Washington called?
The Washington Redskins.
I don't think you're going to score well on this.
They had to change the name. It didn't age well.
No, but they kept it for a long time.
They kept it for a long fucking time.
I've got like a bunch of questions here. I'm going to ask you 2 or 3 more, and then we'll go back to them. How about this? What foreign country aided the colonists the most during the Revolutionary War?
What foreign country aided the colonists the most during the Revolutionary War?
Yeah.
I would say colony, not country, right?
Country.
What country?
Yeah. Aided the colonists.
I might be way out on this. I'm going to say France.
Yeah.
Because we have like Louisiana was owned by the French, and the thing, there was a few French-owned things. It might be Mexico, but I don't think so. I'm going to say France.
Okay, here's a couple more questions. Can you name any prominent members of the American Revolutionary generation? Probably can do this.
Yeah. John Hancock.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, John Hancock, fucking with his big name up in the corner. Fucking leave some space for everyone else. It's like when you write on the wall of a comedy club and you're like, fucking hell, David Spade, that was a big message. I'm just going to have to write in the corner.
Anybody else?
What's his name? Hamilton. He was there. Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin Franklin.
Yep.
Jackson.
Jackson who?
Michael.
Peter.
Peter Jackson, the director?
Yeah, he tried to make it look good. He takes a long time to bring out these films, man.
Who was the King of England during the American Revolution?
He was a man, and I'm going to say it was King George.
I like that he was a man. That was a good one. Okay, last question.
No, there's queens going in between. It might have been.
I said who was the king.
No, but if you said who was the monarch, I knew it was a man. It was the guy in Hamilton that goes, "You'll be back."
I'm going to ask you one more question. We'll get to all these. What treaty ended the American Revolution?
Rice Krispies was the best treaty they had on offer back in the day.
Oh my God.
This is long before.
Oh boy. Wow.
No, the Treaty of not Versailles.
It's close. I mean, it's a good thought.
Treaty of Versailles.
It's wrong, but
I know it's not. That's a different one.
Hi, Jordan. How did Jim do there with answering those questions in the American Revolution? 0 through 10. 10's the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to be generous and say we have some work to do. A 4, I think, would be a fair.
No, I don't.
That doesn't even seem fair.
If he asked me Paul Revere, I would have got the horse thing. That was the equivalent of going viral back in the day.
Paul Revere.
Yeah, Paul Revere. It was like the Twitter of its time. He just, when you hear what happened, like on the horse, and the English are fucking coming, rode around everywhere.
Okay, so 4. How do you do on confidence, Kelly?
I gave him his confidence score early because he said, "Watch me." So I gave him a 10.
I thought
that is.
I thought something would slip into my head, and it didn't. Sometimes I surprise myself with these because I've watched things.
You surprised me a lot on this.
Yeah.
Sometimes you didn't pull a lot of them out. This one.
No, I had nothing.
You did a lot of like, who's anybody?
Yeah, it's just a thing that I don't really. Even when I was watching Hamilton, I was finding the story very hard to follow.
Yeah.
I couldn't follow it. I was just there going, "Oh, who's he trying to kill and why? How many kids has he got? What's going on?"
There are a lot of people who play different parts, so it did get confusing for me.
Yeah. Why is like Benjamin Franklin all camp? I don't know what's going on.
Okay. And
he lived a bit in France.
So that's 14 total. I'm going to give you 0 through etc. Boy George. Nobody wants to hurt you. Nobody really wants to hurt you.
Yeah. I like Boy George.
It's pretty good.
I met him once.
We
were the 2 guests on Kimmel.
That's right. I met him with you.
Yeah.
Was he nice?
He was.
Oh,
Very
good.
nice. Yeah. All right, Jordan. So I asked Jim when the American Revolution was, and he said 1776.
Yeah, I mean that's not wrong. I think most people would expand that a little bit beyond the one day, but it's
1 year.
Well, yeah, July 4th, 1776, right? That was the starting point, and we go outward from there. We have the war, which ran from 1775 to 1783. Most people would probably date the beginning of the American Revolution to the 1760s, 1763 or 1765. And then, it ended. You can debate when this period ended if you think about it, not just as the war, but also sort of the tearing down of old institutions and replacing them with new ones. It probably ended somewhere around 1789 or 1800. So it sort of depends on how you want to think about it.
Is there an argument to say that it's still going?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
It is funny that the revolution takes that long.
The revolution will never end, man.
No, because now everyone's like, it's going to be a revolution. Like, so excited. And then it's like, it's 20 years later. Revolution stuff.
It's like when they stormed the Capitol. We're going to take America back. How are you going to do that? I flipped over a table. I got up there and stood in Nancy Pelosi's office and just flipped me dick out. Like, what do what did they think they were going to do?
I asked Jim, like, what was the American Revolution? Why did it start? And I don't remember what you said, Jim.
Right, they didn't like the English.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, they were the English, so it's a little bit more complicated than that, unfortunately. The story really starts in the 1750s, in 1754, when George Washington, who was a lieutenant colonel in the British Army, was leading a patrol in western Pennsylvania, and he sort of stumbled into a position where some French troops were, and these two groups started to fight this really small-scale battle that eventually ended up causing this huge global war known as the 7 Years' War. The 7 Years' War ended up being really, really expensive for the British Empire, and by the end of it, the British had this huge debt that they weren't really able to pay for. They could barely afford to even keep up with the interest on this debt. And so they think, we fought this big colonial war. It's only fair for the colonies to help us to pay for some of this debt. And so they start pushing new trade policies, new taxes in order to raise money from the colonists. And nobody likes that. Nobody likes to be taxed. Nobody wants to give up their money. So colonists start protesting. Things get out of hand. Eventually, there's an independence movement.
Taxes, man.
Yeah.
It's going to get you. I assume it all started with a parking ticket or something.
Parking ticket?
Yeah, man. That's when you first go, fuck this, man. I pay my taxes.
Yeah. And that's the taxation without representation? Is that like the gist of that, or?
Well, the taxation without representation idea is, something we can think about when we talk about the Stamp Act potentially, but we can skip ahead a little bit.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we can go anywhere.
When I said I was taxation without representation, I was close, right?
I mean, in the sense that I'm trying to be generous.
He gave you 4 points.
I'm just
you got
saying,
the phrase right.
Look, I've been oppressed. And no one wants to hear it.
Well,
I want to hear it, but
another time.
So colonial leaders, they were thinking specifically about a very sort of abstract set of ideas about representation that were related to John Locke, the political theorist, not the character on Lost. So John Locke thought that governments were formed in order to protect property, and a government could take your property through taxation if you agreed, if you consented to that in some way. And the only way for people to consent to the seizure of their property was through representation. But at the same time, unlike you, the colonists didn't really want to be represented because they looked across this big ocean. They saw that they were thousands of miles away from London, and they realized it's not really possible to be effectively represented in Parliament when it takes 2 or 3 months to even just get a letter across the ocean and an answer back. So representation was pretty much impractical for them. And so because that was the case, they thought that most forms of taxation were not legal for them.
Yet Australia found a way. You guys, you went, we can't do this. We can't be run by a country on the other side of the world. Add another fucking 4 weeks to the cruise. And Australia was like, we'll let those people govern us. We still got the Union Jack on our flag, man.
Yeah, but you guys were doing bad stuff when they weren't looking.
Oh, yeah, because you guys were walking around doing nothing wrong.
We didn't do anything.
Fucking the smallpox blanket people. And then you go, Australians were up to no good. We were living in fucking abstract the desert, man. We were living in shit. We were all convicts who were being released and like go off and build a house in the corner. All right, mate.
Okay, so I jumped ahead. The Sugar Act of 1764, why that was significant. Jim said they wanted it for their tea.
Yeah, that's not it. The Sugar Act.
Yeah, but it's not it, is it?
I like that answer. I like that. That's what we want.
The Sugar Act was one of those attempts to raise money to pay down that debt. It was a tax on trade or a tariff. And so when the colonists imported sugar, they were going to have to pay a tax. Previously, it was actually replacing an earlier law that had established higher taxes. So it was actually technically a tax decrease. But that earlier law really hadn't been enforced, and the colonists were worried that the Sugar Act actually would be enforced. And if it had been, it would have caused some serious economic distress, because it wasn't so much that the colonists wanted sugar in their tea as much as that they were importing sugar from the Caribbean, where it was grown by enslaved people on plantations, and then they were taking it, especially up to New England, and making it into rum, which was very profitable. And so if there were taxes on sugar, and those were enforced, then that whole industry would have kind of gone kaput. But the other thing about the Sugar Act is that the protests against the Sugar Act were not very robust. For the most part, the colonists kind of just accepted that the Sugar Act was going to happen. And so that convinced the British government that they could keep adding on other taxes, sort of emboldened them to keep reaching for more sources of revenue from the colonists.
And that would have made it very expensive for them to put sugar in their tea, I assume.
If it was made from rum, yeah.
And, I get this, though, because taxes, it's very frustrating. Like, they say you owe money for taxes. You either pay it, or they take away everything you own, or you go to jail, or the revolution. Those are the only options.
I'll give you a little tip on taxes first. They're not fun. Every year they annoy me.
Yeah, they're the worst.
Every fucking year. As a comedian, they don't take it out gig to gig.
Yep.
At the end of the year, they just send me a bill. Like,
Yeah, different states will tax you that you visit and stuff.
Yeah, I've given them the right just to take it out of my account. Sometimes I just go up there and go, and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's not good. Revolution.
Yeah.
So the Stamp Act, was that more taxes? Or, Jim said they were taxing stamps.
Yeah, it wasn't a tax on this kind of stamps that you put to send a letter through the mail. Instead, it was a new kind of stamp. It was a tax basically on other kinds of paper goods, things like newspapers or magazines or legal documents or even playing cards. So the idea was that you would have to pay to have those stamped with an official government stamp. And that really angered people, especially people like newspaper printers who would have had to pay for those. And newspaper printers decided to sort of mobilize against that. And they, the colonists had this whole elaborate justification for why certain kinds of taxes were okay, but taxes, what they call direct taxes, were unconstitutional. And they considered the Stamp Act to be an unjust tax because it was a direct tax and was taking their property rather than regulating their trade. So this was the first example of that kind of taxation. And it resulted in all kinds of mob violence. People got really, really upset, almost all out of proportion to the actual economic downside of this tax. For a lot of people, it was a signal of something to come rather than just a matter of this small tax itself.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of when they just make up shit taxes on things. You go pay an extra tax. And he's like, I pay me income tax. And then you have to pay council tax.
Like property tax.
Property tax.
Yeah. And then sales tax on every.
For the bins, the garbage man. And I should be paying more. I just don't know in America what I get for my taxes. I don't know what I get.
Look at your tax bill. It tells you.
I get a military.
Yeah.
I think
You've always
it's too
wanted
large.
one of those.
Yeah, I think it's too large. I think we spend too much on that. But maybe we don't. Maybe we need it this big. I don't fucking.
I'll tell you what they should tax: tramp stamps.
I have
Yeah.
transfer.
Oh,
Yep.
well, you're taxed.
Mm.
I don't know how much. I haven't figured it out yet.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Let me know.
I'm sure tattooing's taxed.
What
Be
was
some ink somewhere.
what was the Boston Massacre? I'm assuming it was not when the Boston Red Sox beat the Dodgers.
Did you see the games? Did you see the games? Fuck, it was upsetting.
I mean, it can be more than one thing, right? But all over the American colonies, these protests against these taxes and these new pieces of legislation were getting pretty wild. So mobs were forming that would intimidate people who were trying to implement these taxes. They would tar and feather people who were trying to enforce them. They would attack government officials in their homes, things like that. So because Boston in particular was facing a lot of economic distress, the protests that the colonists were making were sort of centered there. And so London officials decided that they were going to send some troops to help calm things down in Boston and help to take control of the city. And that did not calm things down, right? Sending a occupying army rarely does.
It started with a shot from the British, right? I've seen this in the How We Were Made. I remember this bit now.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some confusion about this a little bit, but generally the narrative is that there were a group of colonists who were pelting the British soldiers on King Street in Boston with snowballs and rocks and things like that, and the soldiers were starting to get a little bit afraid, and one or more of them misheard someone in the crowd shouting the word fire, and took that to be an order that they should fire. So after that, after one soldier shot into the crowd, the rest of the soldiers did so, and in the end, about five people died. Several more were wounded.
Wait, so this started with a snowball fight?
Look, I'm going to tell you this.
Mind
right?
blowing.
The revolution doesn't happen if America in its modern form started on the West Coast. What happened was they all started on the East Coast. They're all fucking, it's cold and wet and snowy. And they're like, fucking hell, and we have to pay these extra taxes. If they were surfing, no, this doesn't happen. In that incident,
They were surfing?
yeah, they were surfing. No one worries about taxes. Don't worry about it. No, it might have happened. It would have taken a lot longer, is what I'm saying. So on the East Coast, they're having fucking throw a snowball at that fucking soldier over there, fucking that red coat, throw a snowball at that cunt, like that, right? And then they're like, oh, my hands are cold. Oh, you better start a fire, right? And then bang, everyone's fucking dying around him. It doesn't happen in a sunny weather. It doesn't happen in good weather. Revolutions need the snow.
Okay. Extra point.
I follow that logic.
It's not
I love
bad.
that theory.
It's not bad. I'm telling you, if they start out like they start off in New York, Boston, Washington, that's how they start America, Rhode Island, Jersey, there's a little pocket there. You know that it was a stupid system because they went, what will we make the biggest city? Oh, make it this island that has a finite amount of space because it'll never grow too fucking big. And they made Manhattan thinking there'll never be a city big enough to cover this block of land. You start in fucking San Diego and LA and everyone's just having fish tacos and shit.
Yeah.
No, the revolution.
They're like, you're going to get taxed more. They're like,
the
"Hey."
revolution takes their sweet time. We don't.
Cuba was fine. Nothing
we don't
happened
give
there.
the Indians fucking epoxy blankets. We make ponchos out of them for that 1 week that gets a bit cold.
I hope one of Jordan's students is listening to this and puts that in as a answer on the test.
It's a theory, but it's not wrong. I think.
I think it's wrong.
I don't know. You reckon it would if we
I
started?
think there was fish tacos.
If you
didn't
reckon
make
we
those,
started on the wet, there would have been more fish tacos. Still run by the Mexicans.
Okay.
The whole place was still Mexican owned back then. There was still Mexican owned. There would have the fish tacos.
Tacos weren't invented yet then.
What are you talking about? The taco's older than fucking America.
That's not.
You're telling me that
I've actually researched this, but I'll get into it in another podcast.
maybe the word taco, but people were putting shit in tortillas way before America was even thought of.
Okay, so let's get back to this. So the Tea Act and the Tea Act and the Boston Tea
taco.
Party.
I've heard some things in me day.
Why did American colonists see the Tea Act as a problem? I'm assuming more taxation.
They were taxing the tea. They overtaxed the tea.
And the Boston Tea Party. So what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't quite just a matter of more taxation. The Tea Act was actually sort of a bailout for a British corporation. It's called the East India Tea Company. And this company wasn't very profitable. It was on the brink of collapse. It was sort of one of those too big to fail situations. The company had faced some economic challenges because of a war in India, which is where they got their tea from. And so the British government stepped in At the time, the American colonists didn't really drink much British tea, tea that was coming from the East India Company. Instead, they mostly got their tea from Dutch smugglers or smugglers who got it from the Netherlands because it was cheaper.
They'd bring them in
good, but it was cheaper.
They'd bring them in clogs. you cut into the wood and all the tea would fall out. They'd go, "I good tea. This is exciting. Like I was getting stoned at home and I put tea in my shoes. I didn't know the success I would have.
Oh, yum tacos.
Yeah, put this in a tortilla.
Okay.
Have yourself fun.
Yeah,
Too cold here.
So
I'm going skiing on a board on the waves.
You sound like Tommy Wiseau in the room right now. Oh, hello, Mark.
We'd all love to lift our grandkids up over our heads and kick soccer balls without blowing out our backs.
Right.
Your long-term goals start with short-term results. Fitbod plans your best course to becoming a badass grandparent someday. No matter your goals or experience level, Fitbod finds you the best workout. No 6-week plans, no shortcuts, no bullshit. Fitbod's innovative algorithm learns your goals and experience level, then crafts a personal training regime unique to you. It's actually very cool. When you log in, you put in all your information like fitness level and what you're looking for, whether it's weight loss or just cardiovascular health or putting on mass. Then you let the app know what type of equipment you have available to you, which is great if you're using it at home like me.
Yeah, it's like they offer all of these different equipment types, and you can just click what you have there if you're doing a home gym, and it'll create an entire personalized workout for you using that equipment. So it's very cool.
glutes.
Okay, so small progress builds exponentially into huge, lasting results, but there's no skipping ahead. Fitbod's one-of-a-kind algorithm uses the data to create dynamic fitness plans just for you based on your personal goals, equipment, fitness levels, and workout history. Access your personal routine by going to the easy-to-use mobile app and start making progress on your goals wherever you are. It's like having a 24/7 access to a personal trainer, a good one, not that one that bloody tried to sell me drugs. No matter where you're starting, Fitbod has a plan for you, and with an algorithm, updates your workouts as you progress. It's kind of like having a personal trainer in your phone, but at least one that doesn't annoy you with stories about their personal life. Oh, God. So I call them 2 personal trainers.
Ooh.
Fitbod just introduced a brand new app interface that's easy to use and even has brand new HD video tutorials to make learning new exercises a breeze, because who the hell actually knows what to do with all these workouts? Not me.
Not me.
It integrates with your Apple Watch, Wear OS smartwatch, what? And apps like Apple Health, Fitbit, and Strava. Oh, God, I got to update my Strava. Build your fitness habit and become a better version of yourself with Fitbod. Get 25% off your first subscription or try out the app for free when you sign up now at fitbod.me/IDK. That's 25% off your subscription when you sign up today at fitbod.me/IDK. All right, hey. This next product we're talking about, big hit in my house, man. Big hit in my house. I have a 9-year-old boy, and he likes the breakfast cereal.
That's his Magic Spoon?
Yeah.
Magic Spoon. They sent us.
So
they sent us
freaking good.
how they have reversed engineered to make this cereal taste exactly the same, but without the tons of sugar and the more protein and the less carbs. How they've done it. Growing up, cereal was one of the best parts of being a kid, but I had to give it up because I realized it was full of sugar and junk that you really shouldn't eat. We're all trying to eat better, but healthier breakfast doesn't have to be boring. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you love, but without all the bad stuff. Now, okay, Magic Spoon has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of proteins, and only 4 net carbs in each servings.
Yeah.
That's only 140 calories a serving. Right? It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. Find your favorite with the variety pack. 4 flavors, a cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter.
My mom was here
Ooh.
last week and she's like, can I try that cereal that you guys were talking about? And she just tried a handful and immediately went and ordered a variety pack. It's so good.
They sent us.
I don't know how they do it.
They sent us
it
some to
makes
try,
no sense.
and I already ordered more. If you like Fruit Loops, their Fruit Loops
taste exactly the same.
They are not new.
I mean,
they've got nothing to do.
Newt boops.
Yeah.
Toucan.
They don't
Dan.
They don't have a toucan on their box.
I didn't say that. They have a fruity flavor.
It's a big parrot.
They have okay. If you like a cereal that tastes pretty fruity and it's different colors,
and it's in circles,
There's a cereal that's pretty
close.
Yeah, do a taste test. It would be hard to tell the difference.
No, try this and tell us it isn't just as good. Go to magicspoon.com/IDK to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code IDK at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed by a 100% happiness guarantee.
Oh, you guys do sound 100% happy.
You don't
So
have
if you
anything to
don't
lose.
like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to get your next delicious bowl of gluten-free cereal at magicspoon.com
but it's also gluten-free.
IDK and use the code IDK to save $5. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this podcast.
So then why were they throwing the tea in the hat? That's all I know about. It's so funny because I learned more about American history. I don't remember anything.
So the Tea Act actually reduced the cost of the tea that the British East India Company was sending. So the idea was that if they could reduce the cost, Americans would start to drink this tea. And there was a small tax associated with it. But a lot of people don't realize the Tea Act was actually a decrease to that tax. So it wasn't like a lot of people assume, I think, a tax increase. But a lot of Americans assumed that the British were trying to prevent them from smuggling in Dutch tea, which was pretty profitable for a lot of people. Jim, you mentioned John Hancock, the guy with the big signature, right? He was a very wealthy man, probably the wealthiest man in the colonies. And one of the reasons he was so wealthy was because he was a smuggler of Dutch tea.
Ooh.
And so he was angry that the British government was trying to take away this very profitable revenue source for him. So again, Bostonians led the way in protesting the Tea Act, just as they did with the Stamp Act. And in 1773, a shipment of British tea from the East India Company was supposed to come into Boston Harbor. A group of radicals, perhaps led by Samuel Adams, they dressed in these disguises. They were trying to look like Mohawk Indians. They boarded the ship. They tossed more than 300 cases of tea into Boston Harbor. And that led, to just more efforts to try to restrain these crazy Massachusetts colonists, and another sort of cycle of angry protests in response.
Good thing they didn't do that today. Sam Adams would have been canceled dressing up like a Mohawk Indian.
Well, who could have done it? Mr. T. He already had a mohawk.
And his name was Mr. T.
His name was Mr. T.
Wow.
The Mr. Tea Party.
Wow, that's a good one, actually.
We just connected all the dots.
All your conspiracy
the next Q
theories
drop.
out there.
The next QAnon drop.
I pity the British.
How many colonies declared independence from Great Britain in 1776? Jim said 16. I know
12.
12?
Yeah.
12.
Either way.
Yeah, 12 is pretty close. So 13 of them, the 13 colonies.
I had that figure somewhere in my head.
Can you name them, Jim?
Yeah. What the difference?
13 colonies.
The states, right?
Yeah, the same names as the states.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got
13 of them.
You got Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Rhode Island.
Yeah.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
New York. North Carolina, South Carolina. No,
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
North Carolina, South Carolina.
Oh, wow, I'm bad at this. That's 7.
7.
That's 6. That's 6. I can't even count.
New England is one.
Wait,
New England's not a state.
Yeah.
Okay, not New England.
Wait, what was it? Not
No, that's New England and Massachusetts, right?
I think where Jack's from.
Atlanta.
Nope.
Well, the state.
Oh, Georgia.
Yeah.
What's one where Pittsburgh's from?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Ohio.
No.
No.
All right.
That's too west. Just think on the.
I don't even know what you said so far. What are all the rest of them then?
Virginia, Maryland, Delaware. I don't know if you said New Jersey, Connecticut?
I didn't say New Jersey. Connecticut's one, yep.
New Hampshire and Connecticut. Yeah.
I remember because you had to list 4 of the 13 on the test. And so I remembered just the ones that are all around New York.
Oh, yeah, that's when you would have gone. All right.
Yeah. I actually had that question in my thing. So I
why did the colonists want independence from Britain? And Jim said, why does anyone want independence?
Because you want independence. Yeah. Everyone wants it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
My baby wants it, can't fucking move. And he's get your hands off me. I want to do my own thing. He's fucking 7 months old. He wants independence.
Yeah, I mean, I think the theory that the American colonists were being babies is just about as strong as the surfing theory. The idea that
I didn't know it was that strong. You tell me,
surfing theory is
you tell me George Washington's on a fucking longboard. They didn't have the shortboards then. It was old days, right?
Oh, in a onesie?
Yeah, he's on one of those longboards with his fucking wooden teeth, powder falling off his head as he cuts through the fucking brake.
In the water.
Cuts through the brake, going, I could never rip a tide. Right, because he never lied or something, and
wow,
you're telling me that cunt wants to fucking make war and not love. No, he's down. He's all fine.
I hope that somebody adds a Wikipedia entry for the surfing theory into the American Revolution.
Yeah, it'll be in there for a day.
I'm telling you, I've said this theory in Australia. So it's all about coast and stuff. So everyone thinks that the British, modern day, obviously the Aboriginals live there. They think that the British found Australia. That's not true. The Dutch found Australia first. The Dutch found Australia, but they land on the west coast where it's all desolate and all that type of stuff. And they were like, fuck this country. And they sailed away. But then the English came in through Sydney Harbour and they saw the Opera House and the bridge. And they thought this place is all right.
But this is the episode on the American Revolution.
No, but I'm just saying it's all about sides you land on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, theory, surfing theory. It'll go down. So was it taxation was the main reason they wanted independence from Britain, or was there other?
Yeah, I mean, people didn't necessarily agree at the time as to why independence was necessary. We talked about a few reasons. One of them was taxation. One of them was that desire for unrestricted trade. One of them was that they wanted access to Western lands. So after the 7 Years' War, Britain had restricted who could move into the lands that they won from that war, and prevented the American colonists from taking possession of lands west of the Appalachian Mountains. And, the colonists really wanted that. They wanted to go into these lands, dispossess Native people, maybe fight some wars against them. And Britain didn't really want them to do that because it would possibly lead to some more expensive wars. So broadly, there is this view that the American revolutionaries were seeking opportunities to enhance their own status and wealth or protect their property. But there's also a view that some of the people who were fighting in the American Revolution, people who wanted independence, saw it as a route to greater equality.
So where did the revolutionaries get their money? If the British are getting it through taxes and all that type of stuff, where did they get it? Are they like a guerrilla team of people, or are they got billionaires funding them, or is that still come out of the American taxes? I'm just slightly lost.
No, that's a good question. One of the main reasons that, if I can jump ahead just a little bit,
you can jump ahead. Yeah.
One of the main reasons that France, which was the United States' most important ally, yes,
boom,
you got that, Jim?
Well, you got one of your points.
Mic drop, man.
So one of the reasons that France and the Netherlands and even Spain were important allies, the Americans, was because they loaned the Americans lots and lots of money. They provided access to supplies and credit and things like that, because otherwise the Americans would have kind of just had to make their own weapons. At some point, Ben Franklin, actually, in the Continental Congress, suggested that the Americans give up on buying firearms and just kind of go back to bows and arrows. That's how desperate things were in terms of American credit and supplies at certain points during the war. So yeah, it was a real problem, the financing of the American Revolution. And they had, go ahead.
Is that why we gave France Louisiana, or did they own that before? I know about the Louisiana Purchase when we got it back from them, but was that a gift to do something like that, or did they own that before that?
So the Louisiana Territory had been owned by France until the 7 Years' War when they gave it to Spain.
Right.
And then Spain gave it to France during the Napoleonic Wars. And then the United States purchased it from France because France no longer had any use for it after the Haitian Revolution and the colony of Saint-Domingue declared independence as the nation of Haiti. And it no longer made sense for France to invest in a large-scale overseas empire. So it's kind of a complicated, series of titles to Louisiana. It's an interesting story, but a long one.
They're all arguing over a bit of swampland, man. It's like I like New Orleans more than the next man. I think it's a lovely place, but before it was built up, I would have let you have it for $5.
Well, maybe they did.
The reason that Louisiana and New Orleans was so valuable was because if you lived around Ohio or Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, those sorts of regions, you really needed to be able to get your goods to market. And that meant being able to ship goods downriver. And that meant being able to go through New Orleans to the south. Yeah, the Mississippi. So
plus Mardi Gras, bitches. If you're living in... Sorry, go on.
The United States didn't even actually want to buy the Louisiana Territory. But Napoleon said, I'm not going to sell you just New Orleans. You have to take the whole territory or nothing. So that's how we ended up with most of North America.
Mm. So who won the majority of the battles of the Revolutionary War, and what was the turning point of the American Revolutionary War? I saw The Patriot, so I'm assuming that the English won most of the battles. And the turning point was Mel Gibson.
Heath Ledger and Mel Gibson. By the way, I just want to speak out for Mel Gibson very quickly.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not. No. Wait, it's coming. Look, he said a lot of bad things, but he never slapped anyone on stage.
That's okay.
He never actually violated. I feel like we allowed to put him in movies again, or
he's in movies.
Like good ones. He's not that Santa Claus movie.
No, he's in a Mark Wahlberg movie right now. And
Expendables 3. Hello.
Yeah, come on. He made that movie called
He's doing fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
Hacksaw Ridge he directed.
He directed Hacksaw Ridge.
I asked when I was doing my sitcom that got sort of killed by COVID, and they had a character playing my dad, and I asked very sheepishly to the executives, "Can Mel Gibson play my dad?"
Weren't they kind of like, yeah, sure. We'll ask him.
No. They were like, we'll have a think about that. They came back with a firm no. And I was like, if 20 years ago you said that Mel Gibson couldn't get on a multicam sitcom with me, he was, so anyway, I'm just.
If he knew about that, he might have been a pretty angry guy.
Yeah. Pretty angry guy.
So who won the majority of the battles in the war? And then what was the turning point?
Yeah, so Britain won most of the battles, at least in North America, the British Empire. But the Patriot strategy really wasn't to win every battle. Their goal was to survive, to keep Britain fighting, to keep them to commit resources until the war was no longer worth continuing. So often they let the British attack them, often quite strategically retreated from battles. And, even though George Washington, a lot of his leaders really wanted to attack, they were fairly patient and careful. And that's one reason that the war took so long, from 1775 all the way until 1783. The turning point, most historians would probably say the Battle of Saratoga in 1777, which is in upstate New York. There was an overconfident British general named John Burgoyne who had these grand ideas about what he could do in New York. And he was sort of outmaneuvered by an American general named Horatio Gates, who forced him to surrender his army. So that was really the first big victory of the war for the Americans. And it helped to convince the French, who were sort of sitting on the sidelines, waiting to see what happened, waiting to see if these rebels were going to be able to actually sort of, make a go of it, or if they were going to fold at the first defeat. It convinced the French to side with the rebels and join them in the war. So that was really, in a lot of ways, the turning point, because France joining the war was really far and away the biggest reason that the Americans won the war.
Okay.
Here's a little off-topic type of question. What currency were they using at this stage during the war? Like they hadn't become America yet. They didn't have American money. Were they using pounds and pence? Or were they using francs? Or what were they using?
They were using the British currency system, so pounds, yes, pound sterling, but there were also lots of other currencies in circulation. The Spanish
Bitcoin.
dollar, Bitcoin. There were state currencies or colonies that had their own currencies as well, which weren't very valuable, but they were there.
But if France is helping funding the war, were they like supplying guns is what they were doing and not just money? Like there'd be like, here's some guns, some ammunition, food, whatever.
Some baguettes. Have you ever tried to bite into one of those fucking things? That'll hurt the top of your mouth.
Shipped across the ocean too.
Yeah,
is that what they were supplying?
You could club someone to death with one of those baguettes.
Yeah, they helped to supply cannon and guns and just access to credit so that the colonists could buy those things from other people as well.
Okay, and so when I said why did the Americans win the war, that you just said it was when the French came in, that was like the deciding once that force came in. Okay,
and that's the reason why we have garlic to this day in America.
How many people died in the American Revolutionary War? I don't even know what you said, Jim.
I said garlic was brought into America.
He didn't hear the question.
Got a nice warm response. I don't know how many people.
He said too many. The British were too dumb to wear camouflage.
Yeah, that's what I said. But I'll give you an amount now.
Yeah,
you're adding
45,000 people.
That's not far off.
Actually,
so maybe I'll bump you up to a 5 there. Actually, it was about 25,000 on each side, so just about 50,000. These are estimates, of course. As with just about.
Are we counting the women and children?
Yeah, I mean that would include.
I didn't count them. That's why I was off.
Tack on 5,000, please.
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of people died of smallpox as a result of the armies moving around. A lot of prisoners of war died of disease. So if you only counted the soldiers who died in action, it would be a much smaller number. But actually, that's these numbers might not sound like a lot when you compare them to modern wars, but as a proportion of the American population, the number of people the percent of people who died in the Revolutionary War was actually higher than it was in World War I or World War II, almost as much as the Civil War.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then, what foreign country aided the colonists? We answered that one the most. What was the army commanded by George Washington called? You said
the Washington Redskins?
Washington Redskins. Was that right?
That is not right.
Was that right?
It was the Continental Army.
Continental Army.
Continental Army doesn't have a ring to it.
The breakfast, though, is better.
Breakfast is better. Oh, I don't like a continental breakfast. I would have supported the full English army. The Continental Army.
Sorry. Did most Americans support the war? I didn't ask you that, Jim, but that's kind of one of those questions.
It's one of those questions that whenever you watch documentaries, whenever they watch documentaries on, like, say, the Vietnam War, you always get this sort of depiction of everyone was against it because we look at the protests and stuff like that. When in reality, most people at home were the same as, like, I sort of remember everyone not supporting the Iraq War but then. Statistically, half the population did. So I'd say it would be split down the middle, 50-50. Half the population supported, half didn't.
That's not bad. Again, these are estimates. We don't have like public opinion polls at this time. And in some places the support was higher, some places it was lower. But a decent rule of thumb is that about 40% of the population supported the Patriot cause in a consistent way. Around 20% of the population were loyalists, people who opposed the Patriot movement. And then there were another 40% of people who just really didn't care. They just wanted it to end. They didn't really care who won. And they just kind of wanted everyone to shut up about it all.
I probably would have been in that. Like, I know history talks differently and you want to be on the winning side, but I probably would have been, oh, God, what are we doing?
Yeah, what's happening? Who?
I just want to surf. I was big into surfing back then. I've lived in California for 13 years, haven't surfed once.
I've barely seen you in the ocean.
I've never stood up on just a plank of wood.
That's a Patreon episode, Jim surfing.
I think Jim did pretty good in this, naming some prominent members of the American Revolutionary generation. John Hancock, you said? And I think you said
not Herbie Hancock.
Hamilton, Washington, Franklin, Peter Jackson.
You also said Jackson. You just said Jackson.
He's on the 20, man.
Andrew Jackson. Yeah. That's later.
That is a little bit later.
No, the Australian 20. Prove me wrong. You don't know.
I haven't seen that one.
There's no way to check.
Yeah, so he did pretty good. Oh, John Hancock. It is I know there's a reason his signature was bigger. Jim mentioned it in that.
I think he just was first, and then everyone went, we can't all fucking...
I'm bad at spacing, guys. I'm sorry.
I just thought we were all doing... Look how many of us there are. There's only this much fucking paper. All right, fuck off. I'm going to drink some tea that I got out of a clog.
Do we know why his signature was the biggest?
There's a story. We don't know, we weren't with him that day, but the story is that he did it because some of the other delegates at the Continental Congress were worried that, by signing their names, this document, they were signing their death warrants. And he was worried that, people were going to be timid about signing this document. And so he put his name, front and center, nice and big, so that he could sort of like lead by example and say, I'm not hiding from the fact that I want to be associated with this document.
It's because he wasn't wearing his bifocals that Benjamin Franklin invented.
But he did well because it's
Give me a point.
He did well. It's still the euphemism. They put your old John Hancock right here. Still, that's me.
Yeah, I think
People don't say it that much anymore. But you just know what
I
they're saying.
think my theory's closer. He just was the first bloke.
Yeah.
His spacing was no good. It's like, remember when you're a kid and the teacher said you have to write a story, it has to be 3 pages long, and you start spacing the words out, you're making your letters bigger, and then you can't tell any more of the fucking story, and you still have a third of a page left. So you write the end.
Who was the king of England during the American Revolution? It was King George, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so George III.
Got lots of points.
I want fucking more points, man.
Nah, you're very generous. 4 points.
But I'd said some things since that have been very good. the amount of people who died, 50% of the people didn't support it. I've said some fucking...
He gave you an extra point. You're up to 5. You're still boy George.
The surfing theory. It's all
Surfing
there.
good. We're going to take that around.
It's all there.
And then the treaty that ended the American Revolution, was it the Versailles?
Rice Krispies.
Was it the Versailles or Rice Krispies Treaty?
Versailles is very close. It was the Treaty of Paris. There were at least 6 treaties of Paris in the 18th century, I guess, because, I don't know, I guess diplomats like hanging out in Paris, but the treaty was Paris, so sort of right next to Versailles. It was in 1783. It was a pretty good treaty.
And didn't Franklin go over there a lot and he had loads of mistresses and shit?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he had a great time in Paris.
Yeah.
With his bifocals.
Yeah, with his bifocals and his mullet. Just walking around all the time going, I'm the Postmaster General.
Why? I didn't ask these questions, but we can ask now. Why did the United States create the Constitution in 1787?
What? Say that again?
Why did they create the Constitution, the United States, in 1787? What was
Well, you need to have a constitution of law. That's what they need to do. They need to put the groundwork into what this country represents. And,
like in 1787, though, why was it that year?
Because they had the Declaration of Independence in 1776, right? And
So
then
11 years later.
Well, it takes a while.
Okay.
It takes a while. Oasis hasn't brought out an album in 15 years. You know what I mean? Like it takes a while.
Maybe I'll just ask, why was it in 1787? Why did it take so long?
Because it takes a while, Forrest.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So there was a temporary form of government they created in between those two events. It was called the Articles of Confederation. It was not very effective. The government that the Articles of Confederation creates is very weak, and this makes sense in a lot of ways because the colonists were rebelling against a faraway power that was governing them. And they didn't want to be governed by a powerful, faraway government again. So that was the idea. It turned out to be kind of a disaster. The Confederation government, as it was known, couldn't raise taxes. It couldn't even muster up an army when there was a rebellion in Western Massachusetts. The wealthy merchants in Boston had to raise a private army in order to put it down because the government couldn't afford to raise its own army. So it was a pretty useless government. Even the people who were elected to serve in the Confederation Congress wouldn't even bother to show up for it because they didn't think it was worth their time.
Now, this wasn't Washington as the president yet, right? This was because he was the first president. Who was in charge?
There were a number of people who were in charge. There was a very weak executive. So there was someone who presided over the Confederation Congress, but he didn't really have much power, and that would rotate pretty frequently. So there was no one really in charge, and that was, in some ways part of the problem.
Okay. And how accurate is Hamilton, by the way? You mentioned that.
Did they sing in real life?
Yeah. I don't think many of the founding fathers were black.
No, I mean like the details, like because I did watch Hamilton.
Like, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that to be rude, but that's an interpretation, right?
No, I mean the facts that they're saying. The
facts are all true.
I'm asking Jordan.
It's new.
I'm not asking you.
I know about musicals.
Okay.
And I will tell you this, that all the founding fathers rapped.
Okay.
True. Little known.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the parts of that I have the least problem with. In a lot of ways, the musical's okay. It's based on a fairly decent biography of Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow, but it also skips some important things. It skips the fact that Hamilton was quite an elitist. It makes him seem like he was more against slavery than he really was. So it's not so much that there are a lot of things that are just plain wrong about it as much as that it leaves out a lot of very important things.
But he still was maybe the most like a really important person in American history that isn't celebrated as much as the
Wasn't
other
he
ones,
really?
right?
He really was biracial, right? He was.
I don't know.
He was.
Probably not. He was.
That's what I took from that musical. I told that to my kids, man.
I mean, we don't know for sure. I guess you could say that, but
I told them I know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hamilton was the son of a Scotsman who sort of left town in the Caribbean, and so we don't know a lot about his parentage, but we think it was a Scotsman.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Did we do all these?
Did he have red hair? He didn't have red hair. These Scots people have red hair.
I don't know. Lin-Manuel Miranda doesn't. So, okay. And now's a part of our episode or our show called Dinner Party Facts. We ask our expert to give us a fact, obscure, interesting, that people can use to impress their friends at a dinner party.
Lin-Manuel Miranda sounds like a Spanish veranda that you've built in a house. Put a Lin-Manuel Miranda out the front.
Oh, like a structure?
Yeah. Like a pergola.
Just thought of that now.
He's combining his first and middle.
It's been in your head.
Yeah, I'm
It's
getting
been in my
confused
head
with
for a
the
long
name.
time.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah.
All right. So our dinner party fact. Jordan.
I like him and hate him at the same time. I know he's very talented, but then sometimes when he comes on screen, I go, and then he's good, and I'm like, oh, you're very good.
Do you have a dinner party fact for us, Jordan?
Yeah. No, I was just taken in by the point about Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I like Jordan's very dry sense of humor. I'm a big fan.
So the dinner party fact, a few years after he left office, George Washington died in Mount Vernon. He basically died of a sore throat. That was his only symptom. It was a throat infection.
COVID.
Maybe. So people remember George Washington's death as a fairly idealistic kind of thing. He emancipated the enslaved people that he owned with his will. It was supposed to be a peaceful death. His last words are supposed to have been "'Tis well." So it was supposed to be a nice sort of quiet death in the last 2 weeks of the 18th century, but it was also really weird in some ways. At the time, people believed that it was possible for a person who had recently died to be brought back to life under some circumstances. That was sort of the point at which medical knowledge had advanced to. So when Washington was dying, a physician who lived nearby named William Thornton came to see if he could save him while he was dying. But he arrived a few hours too late to save Washington. Thornton, though, thought that he could still save Washington after he died, and he could try to reverse this death. So again, at the time, the prevailing view among a lot of doctors was that you could actually reverse death in the right circumstances. So Thornton suggested that they take his body, they thaw it in some water, they warm him up with blankets, and they fill his body up with blood from a lamb, transfuse him with lamb blood. And he was totally certain that this was going to work. He was telling Washington's family, we can bring him back if you just let me do this. And they said, no, we're not going to let you do that. So it didn't actually happen, but still, I love this image of Washington's body lying there and this sort of mad scientist doctor next to him trying to bring him back to life, and the family saying no, just let it go, right? And I also like the idea that if this doctor had maybe been a little bit more persuasive, George Washington would have been not just the first president, but also the first zombie president.
Yeah, but this guy must have had somewhat success with the lamb blood previously. That couldn't have been his first time doing it.
Well, I don't know. I used to do, it's funny. I forgot that George Washington died of a sore throat, but then I used to do a joke where I said that, where I talked about healthcare. And,
you know why he died of a sore throat, right?
No, because it wasn't a bloodletting. Didn't that's what they did back then? They were
release the humors.
They'd be like, you're sick. And then they'd be like, we'll just cut you up and drain your blood.
It was termites in his teeth.
Ah.
And he slept on his back and they crawled back in there. Termite teeth. It's a common thing back in the day.
Isn't the wooden teeth a myth? Didn't he actually have the teeth of slaves?
So he had more than one set of dentures. One was made partially from hippopotamus bone. And I think that's true that one of them was made partially from the teeth of enslaved people. Yeah, I think that's true, but I'd have to check.
One of the enslaved people was Pinocchio.
Also had termites.
I never even thought that you'd have different sets of teeth, like sneakers. What am I going to wear today?
It's like sunglasses or
slave
something.
teeth today.
Yeah, hippopotamus teeth.
Well, George Washington could have been the very first Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
And that would have been fucking awesome.
Weekend at
Prequel.
George's.
How long after he died was he on the cash?
Was he on the couch?
On the cash,
Cash.
on the money, on the money.
I don't know. I think it would have been pretty recently or pretty soon after, but the dollar bill as we know it now didn't come about until much later. He probably would have been on coins first. But
Yeah, the dollar bill would have been like $100 bill now, right? I've always wondered that about currency when they're just like, and back in the day, a packet of biscuits cost 5 cents. And you're like, how much did one biscuit cost? So, you know, when you go,
they
You couldn't just buy one. It wasn't allowed.
Yeah. When you buy a 5-cent lolly now, was that like a point something of a?
Well, in the 20s, I can tell you this: they had gold coins. The eagle. They're like solid gold coins, and they sold for, I think they're $20 or maybe $20 coin, and now it's like an ounce of gold, so it's worth like $1,800, something like that.
I'll tell you something that America's got to do, and I think we did it in like 1992 in Australia. We got rid of the 1 and 2 cent coin. We just have a 5-cent coin. We don't have a 1 and 2 cent
They've
coin.
talked about that here.
Yeah, you got to get rid of it. No good. Waste
Okay.
of time.
All right, well, get that done, everybody. Jordan Taylor, thank you for being here. The book is
Fucking game changer, I tell you.
The book is called Misinformation Nation: Foreign News and the Politics of Truth in Revolutionary America. The Twitter handle is at Publius or Parish, PUBLIUSORPERISH. Jordan Taylor, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
joining
all.
us.
Thank you for being on the podcast, Jordan. If you're ever at a party and someone comes up to you and goes, hey, George Washington has only 1 set of teeth, so I don't know about that, and slap them because nothing will happen to you and walk away.
Topical.
Yeah. Good night, Australia.